Hi, my name is Tom Ryan, and I am so excited to be part of YA ThrillerCon. That's my old dog Wheeler. Wheeler? Yeah, he's not interested. I'm really thrilled to be part of YA ThrillerCon. Thanks to the organizers for inviting me, and I apologize in advance for the headphones. My husband is working upstairs, and if I don't use the headphones, his voice calls come through on the sound, so this is just the easiest way to make this work. Yeah, I've been writing for about 10 years, but my first mystery thriller came out last year. My YA thriller, Keep This to Yourself. And it's about a gay teen named Mac who is searching for the serial killer who murdered his best friend a year before the story begins. And as he undergoes this investigation, he uncovers all sorts of dark secrets and unexpected surprises about his small town, his friend group, the people that he's known his whole life. And Keep This to Yourself is out in hardback now, and it comes out in paperback on September 15th from Albert Whitman and Company. And I'm really excited to say that about 3-4 weeks ago, it was the Crime Writers of Canada gave out their Arthur Ellis Awards for the best crime books of the year in Canada, and Keep This to Yourself won Best YA Mystery. So that's pretty cool. And I like this grim, macabre statue. It's my very first award in almost a decade of publishing, so it's extra special. And this weekend, Keep This to Yourself is also up for Best YA Mystery at the ITW Awards, the Thriller Awards, which are given out by the International Thriller Writers Association. So fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. I have another mystery coming out this fall called I Hope You're Listening. And it's a different kind of mystery. It's not a murder mystery, it's a missing persons mystery. And it's about a queer teen named Dee, who 10 years before the story begins, was in the woods with her best friend Sibby. They were both 7 or 8 years old. And Sibby was abducted, kidnapped in front of Dee's very eyes. And Dee was unable to give the authorities any valuable clues afterwards. And so the case has been unsolved all this time. And as a way of dealing with her survivor's guilt, Dee creates a podcast that she runs anonymously with a disguised voice and an alter ego named The Seeker. And the podcast is basically designed to help find missing people. So things are going along well. The podcast is successful. And all of a sudden, another young girl goes missing from the same childhood neighborhood where Dee's friend Sibby went missing. And Dee has to decide whether she is willing to risk her anonymity to get involved in this new case. And then a clue comes to the light that indicates that maybe the two cases are connected, and things start to escalate from there. So it's a book I'm really proud of, and I'm looking forward to its release. And I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek right now. This is a scene from the beginning of the book where it's a flashback where Dee and Sibby are about to go into the woods. 10 years ago, Dee feels like she's been waiting outside Sibby's house forever. She doesn't want to knock on the door because then she'll have to talk to Sibby's mom and explain what they're doing, and she'll make them take Sibby's little sister, Greta, along with them. Greta's pretty cute, but she can be kind of annoying, always asking questions and always being slow. Besides, Dee and Sibby almost never get to play together anymore, just the two of them. And it won't be the same if they have a little kid tagging along. Dee isn't too worried because she knows that Sibby will have a plan. Sibby always has a plan. While she waits, Dee sits on the edge of the porch and swings her legs back and forth, admiring her new boots. They look just like her dad's boots, just a lot smaller. They're brown leather, the color of chocolate, with bright red laces that catch onto little hooks instead of threading through holes. They're warm, but not too warm, perfect for adventures. The front door creaks open, and Sibby's head pokes out. She grins and holds a finger to her lips. Shh. She disappears back inside, and Dee sits and waits, trying to be completely silent. A few seconds later, the door opens again, and Sibby tiptoes out. Her boots are on, and she's got one arm inside her coat. She struggles into the other arm, then leans back inside the house and yells, "I'm going outside to play with Dee." She stays there, waiting, and then Dee hears Mrs. Carmichael's voice, distant and muffled. Annoyed? Dee can't tell. "We won't be long," Sibby replies, and then she reaches in and pulls the door firmly closed, careful not to slam it. "Let's go quick," she says, and Dee can tell from the way she says it that there's no time to waste. She hops down from the edge of the porch onto the ground. It's only a couple of feet up, but she knows that the boots help her. She can feel them grip the ground when she lands. Giggling, the girls run to the sidewalk and turn down the street. When they make it to the maple tree at the end of the block, they both know they're out of view of Sibby's house. "I think we're okay," says Sibby, laughing, catching her breath. "Greta made a big mess at lunchtime, and Mom had to clean her up. It was a good time to escape." She grins at Dee, and Dee grins back. Sibby always knows how to make things work out. "So what are we going to do?" Dee asks. "We're going to the fort," says Sibby, as if Dee is nuts for even asking. "Without Burke and everyone else?" Dee asks. She knew that Sibby would want to go to the fort, but she feels a bit uneasy. The woods are fun when there are a bunch of them playing there, but they're also dark and a bit scary. "Just because Burke's uncle built the fort, that doesn't mean Burke owns the fort," Sibby says, as if Dee should know this. "Besides, the woods belong to everyone, and it will be fun to play there by ourselves without everybody else taking up space. Burke's sisters are annoying. They're so bossy." Dee thinks it's funny that Sibby would call anyone else bossy, but she knows better than to point that out. She also doesn't bother mentioning that Mara and Alicia have only come to the fort once, right after their Uncle Terry built it, and that time was just to see it. They're older and not into playing outside the way they used to be. Anyway, it's true that there are usually a bunch of people at the fort, but today Greta is out of the picture, Burke and his sisters are in the city to watch a movie, and the twins, Dee's brothers, are at hockey practice. Sibby's right. Today they'll have the fort to themselves, and who knows when that will happen again. "Okay," says Dee, "let's go." They cross the street and walk 2 doors down to Dee's house, then to Mrs. Rosa's house, because the easiest way to get into the woods is through Mrs. Rosa's backyard. Mrs. Rose doesn't mind. She likes all the kids on their street. She's like a grandma, even though Dee knows she doesn't have any grandchildren of her own. It's the end of March, and still chilly enough for a coat and mittens, but there's a bit of warmth in the breeze, and as Dee follows Sibby through Mrs. Rosa's backyard, she notices little points of crocuses poking from the ground and tiny green buds on the shrubs and trees, and she knows that spring is almost here. At the back of Mrs. Rosa's garden is a hedge that backs almost all the way up onto the forest. There's a gap they can step through, and soon they're in the narrow strip of grass that separates the neighborhood lots from the trees. A cloud passes over the sun just as a breeze picks up, and Dee feels a chill run down her spine. "Let's go," says Sibby, several steps ahead of Dee. Under the shadow of the cloud, the woods look cold and dark and ominous. Dee wants to tell Sibby that they should just go over to Dee's house and watch a movie or play a game, but she knows it's no use. Sibby has made up her mind. Besides, it will be fun. Sibby's ideas always end up fun. Sibby turns and walks into the trees, and a moment later, Dee follows. Dun dun dun. So to find out what happens, you should either pre-order or request from your library so you can be the first in line to pick it up. It comes out October 6th from Albert Whitman and Company. And yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. And if you want to find out more about me or my books online, you can find me at my website, which is tomryanauthor.com, or you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, where I am at tomryanauthor. So this has been a lot of fun, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the programming, and have a great day. Thanks.